Welcome to our YouTube channel, where wisdom meets inspiration. In this channel, we share valuable insights to help you become the best version of yourself. Our content is designed to uplift your spirit and enrich your life. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay connected with this incredible journey. Click the subscribe button below.
Om aham vrikshasya reriva kirti prishtham gireriva urdhvapavitro vajaneva swamritamasmi travinagam savarchasam swamedha amritokshitaha iti trishankor vedana vachanam. Aham vrikshasya reriva, I am the Supreme Being who is the basis of the entire tree of this universe. Two meanings are given. Shayana says, I am that who cuts the samsara vriksha. There's transmigratory existence called the tree of samsara. Or I am the root of this entire samsara. Aham vrikshasya reriva. Kirti prishtham gireriva. Giri means the mountain. My glory is so high that it reaches the peak of the Himalayan mountain, as it were. I am so glorious, so powerful, so vast, so luminous. Kirti prishtham gireriva urdhva pavitro vajaneva swamritamasmi. Vajini is the name of the sun. The sun is the purest of the pure. So I am so pure, so great, urdhva pavitro vajini iva, like the sun. Swamritamasmi, I am the essence of immortality. Dravinagam savarchasam sumedha amritokshitaha. Dravina is the wealth. I have the great spiritual wealth in me, and which is sprinkled with akshita or ukshita, two ways it's taken. This wealth of spirituality which is there is within me is sprinkled with amrita, with the nectar. So this is a remarkable passage which we can repeat every day, as Shankara has recommended. With this we begin. So all of us are seekers in spiritual life. We take it that we are seekers in spiritual life, otherwise we wouldn't be here. What do we seek? Seeking means aspiring, wanting to have something. It could be desires of a lower nature or desires of a higher nature. Every one of us wants something in life. Seeks something in life. And interestingly, whatever we seek and whatever we desire, we find. We often think we should not desire anything because if we don't get it, we'll be disappointed. But Swami Vivekananda is remarkably devastating way. He says, please don't desire anything, because whatever you desire, you will get. And to be able to get it, you have to come again and again. This statement again follows the Upanishad. Swami Vivekananda said famously once, I have spoken nothing but the Upanishad. It's a good exercise for research. Every one of the statements of Swami Vivekananda you can analyze and see how it is related to some passage in the Upanishad or the other. You know what is the passage through which is related? I thought this is related to the statement in the Mundaka Upanishad. Kamanya kamayate manyamanasya kamabhirjayate tatra tatra paryapta kamasya kritatmanastu ihaiva sarve praviliyanti kamaha. Whatever desires you have, through that desires you go, and to be able to fulfill those desires, you move from place to place, heaven to heaven, till the desire is fulfilled, for which you have to come again and again and again. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam, yah samsare khaludustare kripaya pare pahi murare bhaja govindam bhaja mudhamate. The famous Bhaja Govindam song with the great Bhashyakara, the simplest and the most profound. So again and again you come back. Why? You want to fulfill some desire. Holy Mother Sharada Devi very beautifully said, even if you want to have Rasagulla, then for that Rasagulla to come again. So eat as many Rasagullas as possible now. So Swamiji therefore said, whatever you desire you are going to get. for which you have to come again and again. So if you want to put an end to this transmigratory existence, coming and going again and again, then give up all desires. Some people argue, what's wrong in coming and going? You sadhus, you sannyasis are overmuch afraid of coming and going, so we are not absolutely unhappy. We come and go, there are desires and there are sorrows, there are also some streaks of happiness, why not? The answer to this will be, those who are not tired of coming and going, those who are not tired of the present state of existence, can jolly well come and go, but those who are tired, we do not want to come and go. Please come and go, I don't want to come and go. A time will come when you wake up and say, no more. This is called in Vedanta, very interesting statement, phrase is used, alam pratyaya. Shankara uses this phrase. Alam means enough. In English we have a phrase, enough is enough. When enough is enough, thought arises in you, you feel, I have had enough of this, no more. Alam pratyaya, the feeling of enoughness, if that can be used, when it arises within you, then you say no more. Then Vedanta is for you. If you think that you can come and go, you're not so tired of everything, Vedanta is not for you now, although you can attend classes, but things can go on. A time comes in a man's life and you feel, I'm absolutely tired, I'm sick of the whole thing. Swami Vivekananda therefore defined a religion in a beautiful way by saying, religion begins with an intensest dissatisfaction of the present state of affairs. You are intensely dissatisfied. What is the rigmarole of life? Coming and going every day, wake up in the morning and brush your teeth if at all you do it. Then eat your breakfast and go to office and come back. Go on like this for 40, 50 years. Then you are tired. At the end of it, you ask yourself, what have I achieved? So, intelligent people like us, reasonably intelligent, aren't we? Otherwise, you wouldn't be here in Vedanta. So we ask the question, is that all to life? Is there anything higher to seek? So what is it that a man seeks in life? This is a question. When we talk about seeking, Vivekananda also said, our great rishis were great classifiers and generalizers. They made very, very bold generalization, and they also classified. Classification is extremely important in life because you have so many objects and so many ideas, and these have to be properly classified. Those of you who work with the computers know you have several folders. One folder for lectures, another folder for something else, another folder for you work in the office, those are accounts. So you have to classify these ideas, classify these documents in a particular way. This classification is a great principle. Those of you who have studied a little of chemistry in school, all of us have, there's what is the periodic classification of elements. So many elements came to be discovered, more than 100 of them. So somebody thought we should have a classification of these elements. So classify them in certain periods according to the properties that these elements have. Now, how many kinds of seekings are possible? I seek this, you seek something else. Can you classify the various kinds of things which people seek in life? How many desires a person has? How many aspirations that a person has? What will be your take on this? Oh, so many. Among the so many, can I classify them? Our great rishis said it can be classified into 4. You know the answer. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. These are called Purushartha. Purushena Arthita iti Purushartha. Arthita means sought after. What a Purusha seeks is Purushartha. Purusha here means a human being, not only a male person. Whatever a person seeks in life is Purushartha. What is it that we seek normally? We seek desires, to fulfill desires. Kama. How many desires do we have in life? Innumerable desires. Once again, our ancients were very liberal in putting zeros after 1. And Swami Vivekananda, following the traditions of 100,000, he'll begin with 100,000. That is the minimum. It's called Oriental hyperbole, Swami Vivekananda said. we don't think in small terms. So they classified as for a very interesting classification, this desires. How do you satisfy desires? Through your senses. I want to eat something, I want to see something, I want to hear something. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. These are the Jnanendriyas, are the organs of perception, as you know. And the Karmendriyas, 5 organs of action. Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Upastha. These are well known to you. You have 10 of them. And there is an organ which processes all this. The CPU, Central Processing Unit, as in a computer, is called the Manas. So Manas is also considered one of the Indriyas, Ekadash Indriya. So 11 Indriyas. Each of the Indriyas has some desires or the other. And the desires also could be Sattvic, Rajasic or Tamasic. The Triguna, as you know. So 11 into 3 is 33. And suppose you have thousands of desires. Whenever you talk about limitless, endless, any number, innumerable, the word which is used in Sanskrit is koti. Koti means a billion, for example. So you have each of these 11 senses operating through Sattva, Rajas, Tamas has a koti desire. So how many does it come to? 33 koti. That means Tatrish koti devata. 33 koti, crore. In India we call it crore, not million or billion. See, if there is a devata, if there is a God which satisfies each of these desires, how many gods should you have? 33 crore gods. You always listen in Hinduism, they have 33 crore gods, and people say, oh, these Hindus are idolaters, they have many gods. The idea of 33 crore gods comes from the perception that there shall be one God to satisfy your one desire. That means you have 33 crore devatas, then all your desires will be fulfilled. Kama, desire, for which you need money, called artha. Unless you have money, you can't satisfy any of your desire. So money is very, very important. Although Sri Ramakrishna threw away money, saying that money is mud and mud is money, he became slightly jittery afterwards. He came and said, I have thrown away this money. Mother Lakshmi may be displeased. Suppose she now stops my food tomorrow. Cat jodi bandu kora de ki hobe. Then he said, oh mother, reside in my heart. Because you can't wish away wealth. Wealth is extremely important for doing anything. Our ancients were not against enjoyment, were not against accumulation of wealth. Only they said, artha and kama have to be regulated by dharma. The whole idea being, there is a regulatory principle in society, regulatory principle in the universe, which regulates the enjoyment of desires and the accumulation of wealth. This regulatory principle is called dharma, comes from the dhatu, which is dhr. Dhatu is a verbal root of any word in Sanskrit. The dhatu here, the verbal root is dhr dhatu, and dhr means hold. And the modern word for holding is to sustain. Now we talk about sustainability. Everywhere sustainability is there, sustainable development. And the United Nations came up with Sustainable Development Goals. At the turn of the millennium, they talked about Millennium Development Goals, MDG. Then they went on to talk about Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, 17 of them. The target given is 2030. Recently there was a conference in Vatican, which I attended, how religions can help in the actualization and the realization of the dream of the UN to see how the sustainable development goals can be achieved. So sustainability is a dharma. Dharma is what sustains the universe. So Shankara, therefore, in his own inimitable genius, gives a very simple definition of dharma in his Upodghata Bhashya, the introduction to the Gita Bhashya. the commentary on the Gita. He says, Jagata sthiti karanam praninam sakshat abhyudaya nishrayasa hetuhu ya sadharmaha. Very simple definition. Jagata sthiti karanam, that which sustains the universe. Sthiti is sustaining. And abhyudaya nishrayasa. These are two important words in Vedanta. Abhyudaya is worldly prosperity, worldly success. Nishrayasa is the spiritual goal. Nishrayasa is moksha, and abhyudaya is arthakama. But arthakama regulated by dharma. Abhyudaya and nishrayas are also called, respectively, prayas and shreyas in the Kathopanishad. So all the beings seeking abhyudaya, worldly success and worldly prosperity, and nishrayasa, the spiritual goal, spiritual fulfillment, emancipation from ignorance and darkness, this twin ideal of abhyudaya and nishrayasa being attained is dharma. And abhyudaya is called pravritti dharma, and nishrayasa is called nivritti dharma. These are also important words which are used. Pravritti and nivritti completely encompass all the spiritual truths which are spoken of in the Hindu scriptures. Pravritti going out, nivritti coming inward. Swami Vivekananda interprets this pravritti nivritti in a wonderful fashion in his Karma Yoga. Earlier scriptures and earlier acharyas have said pravritti means inclination towards work, activity, karma, and nivritti is coming away from karma, desisting from karma. Swami Vivekananda said, you go to the root once again. Vritta dhatu means cycling, and pravritti means cycling towards, and nivritti is cycling away from. Away from and towards what? Not towards work and away from work, but towards your selfish little egoism and away from your egocentricity. In that sense, a person who performs karma yoga without the idea of the little individuality or the ego is actually performing nivritti rather than pravritti. That's Swami Vivekananda's take on karma yoga. So pravritti, nivritti, abhyudaya, nishrayasa, arthakama and moksha. This is what a human being normally seeks. This sustains this. So dharma is a regulatory principle. What is the principle by which dharma regulates? It is the principle of sacrifice. This is also an important concept in the Hindu tradition, traditions of all religions for that matter. The golden rule in the Bible also talks about it. Do unto others what you would like others to do unto you. That means you sacrifice yourself. If everybody wanted to achieve artha and kama independent of everybody else, there will be total chaos in the universe. So you have to achieve artha and kama, wealth and desire. You should allow others also to do the same. Everybody has this desire. That means you have to sacrifice your little interest so that others also will be empowered to enjoy wealth and to acquire wealth for fulfilling desires. This is the principle of sacrifice. Your individual interest has to be sacrificed for the collective. Otherwise there will be total chaos. This is the principle of democracy. Democracy says every person should have equal right to enjoy, equal right to education, equal right to health, and so on. Suppose you say, I have a freedom to do what I like, I will seek this. You should remember the other person also has an equal freedom to seek what he likes. And if your freedom of seeking what you feel like seeking impinges upon the freedom of the other man, and through this impingement if there is a conflict resulting in fire, then your freedom will be curbed to the extent the other man also can equally enjoy. So if you don't sacrifice happily, if you don't sacrifice willingly, the nature will see to it that you sacrifice. Swami Vivekananda said in his own inimitable style, nature wants you to sacrifice. Nature will put her hands upon your throat and make your fists open. Man wants to hold with clenched fists. I will not give it up. This is mine. Nature will put her hands upon your throat and make the fists open. So give gladly, give willingly before the nature comes and catches hold of your throat so that your fists open. There is an interesting story. The British people, the aristocrats are tight with a tight upper lip. They are somewhat self-opinionated and bordering on arrogance. A British aristocrat is walking in the street, whirling his stick. They don't usually communicate with human beings unless they are introduced by a third person. The British are like that. There is another story of two British people sitting side by side, and the second man constantly looking at the first person, not talking. Afterwards he got irritated. Why are you looking at me? Sir, I wanted to say your coat is burning. But he would not say that unless the third person comes and introduces these two people. That is the British aristocracy. But they always go for a walk with the dog and constantly keep talking to the dog. Human beings they will avoid. So this person was walking with the dog and whirling the stick. There was another person walking the opposite direction and the stick hit his nose. He got terribly angry. What? You have no right to hit my nose like that? Said, I have a right to whirl my stick. I have the freedom for it. You should have been more careful. He said, I have a right to walk in this street. You can't hit me like that. There is a huge debate and they went to court. These people always go to court for every little thing. And the judge was very humorous. In those days, the judges were so witty and humorous. Apart from law, they used to write beautiful judgments which are very literary. Many such examples are given. For example, there's a huge riot somewhere, and the sub-inspector, the police was responsible to quell the riots. He simply ran away from that place out of fear. The judge wrote, the sub-inspector apparently thought that absence of body was any day better than presence of mind and is nowhere to be seen near the scene of occurrence. So this judge wrote, yes, you have the right to whirl your stick, but your freedom and the right to whirl the stick ends where the other man's nose begins. Which means you have to have a sense of sacrifice voluntarily, willingly, each one of us, so that society can be regulated on the principle of what is known as dharma. So dharma, artha, kama and moksha, these are the chaturvidha purusharthas, fourfold purusharthas, which a human being seeks. Now when we seek, do we find what we are seeking? This is another question. Christ very encouragingly said in the Bible, seek and thou shalt find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. If Christ were present now, he will not say knock, touch and it will be opened unto you. Everything is now touch. That means whatever you seek, you shall find. I am going to raise a philosophical question here. Is what you are seeking found at the end of the seeking or on the way? Suppose you assume at the end of the seeking you see what you want to seek. Seeing takes place at the end of your seeking. When the seeking ends, seeing or attainment of what you seek takes place. Now, what you see at the end of your seeking, is it the result of your seeking, or when the seeking ends, seeing begins? Let's go a little more deeply into this question. Is what you see at the end of seeking, a result of what you are seeking, or when the seeking comes to an end and you can't seek anymore, something takes place by which seeing happens, becomes possible? In the inspired talks, Swami Vivekananda made a very powerful statement which is supposed to have transformed the life of Swami Ashokananda. He writes about it. Don't seek God, see Him. If you seek something, you may get what you seek. But is that what you intended to seek? Is that the result of your seeking? If you analyze the process of seeking, what is seeking? You seek something. In the process of seeking, the mind operates. For example, all of us are seekers of God, seekers of spiritual values, seekers of higher truth. So you do what is known as sadhana, the process of seeking, each in his own way. And this seeking takes place through the mind, in space and in time. Obviously, you sit in a place which is conducive for seeking, either in the cave or the Himalayas, in the Hollywood temple, wherever. Then you meditate, you close your eyes, pray, chant, and you choose an auspicious moment for this. This is a very sacred moment. So you choose a sacred place and a sacred time, and you choose that to be the place and time in which seeking may be most effective. So seeking involves space and time, and is seeking and the seeing which comes at the end of seeking causally related? I don't know whether I'm going a little more deeply than I should, but this is a very interesting question to ask. Is seeking causally related to the seeing which comes at the end of seeking? The end of seeking could be the result of seeking, or it could be a result of the end of seeking, at which point of time seeking just drops and you just see. This question has been debated in philosophy, in religion, and in spirituality. Shankaracharya, for example, would constantly say, realization of the Atman, Atmajnana, the knowledge of the self, the knowledge of the truth, is not the result of sadhana. Why? If it were a result of sadhana, which is in space-time, the truths which you are discovering, the truths which you are seeing will also be conditioned by space-time, and by hypothesis, the truth which is absolute cannot be conditioned by anything relative, therefore can't be conditioned by space-time and causation, and therefore what you realize at the end of sadhana as a result of sadhana is not the absolute truth which you initially wanted to see. Therefore, if you posit a causal relationship between seeking and seeing, then the seeing will be conditioned by space, time and causation, and therefore it cannot be the absolute truth. You may see something at the end of sadhana. Many people say they see vision, they see a form of gods, etc. You may. But that, if it is a result of what you seek, that's your own conditioning which projects this object. You imagine an object and you want to see it intensely, what you imagine, what you project, automatically you may see. But is that the truth that you are seeking? Or, to put it differently, can truth be really sought after? Shankaracharya's take on this, which is uniformly accepted by all the religious leaders across all religions, is that the realization of God and the realization of Atman is not the end product of sadhana. It just happens at the end of sadhana, but not the product of sadhana. Being the end of sadhana means you go on striving, seeking, struggling, meditating, praying, crying to God, chanting, and you become so tired you stop seeking. When you stop seeking, the truth flashes to you. Sri Ramakrishna gives a very simple example, as he usually does. All this complicated jargon which we couch religious truths in are completely washed away by Sri Ramakrishna's simple examples. He says there is a bird which is sitting in the mast of a ship. And the bird was innocently sitting and then seeing the scenery. And the ship was unanchored and started moving in the sea. The bird couldn't quite realize what was happening. When the ship went deep into the sea, it realized, hey, I have to go home. My children are still waiting for me. They started flying. But it has gone so deep into the sea, it saw only water, water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. East, west, north, south, no land anywhere. He became tired ultimately of flying and flying, came back and sat on the mast of the ship, said, I can't fly anymore. When the wings are tired, the seeking stops, and you realize that your individual effort in space, time and causation cannot result in the realization of the Atman or God, which is beyond space, time and causation. This realization makes you drop seeking completely. Because you realize you are doing an impossible effort. And when the seeking drops, when the mind is suspended in an atmosphere of complete helplessness that it can't seek anymore, then the mind collapses and dies. This is the truth about spiritual life. It happened to Sri Ramakrishna as a sadhaka. You know what happened? He cried and cried, how much he struggled hard, how much he meditated. He used to go to the cremation ground, meditate the whole night. He used to rub his face against the ground and cry, and then blood used to ooze out. Mother, where are you? One more day is gone. I have to see you. All this sadhana didn't yield him anything. At the end of it, he said, no, I have to end this. He is taking the sword and trying to cut his throat. Is symbolic of the act. This sadhana has to end. The seeking has to end. Psychologically, when he ended this seeking through the sword of knowledge, then suddenly the vision of the mother took place. So should we not do anything at all now? We have to. I'll give a simple story from Swami Turiyananda's life. This was told to me by a very senior Swami Satswarupananda, who was in Kashi. He perhaps was present there. Perhaps he was the monk who asked this question. A young monk asked Swami Turiyananda about sadhana and then what should we do to realize God and so on. Then this young monk said, Swami, I know the way. Turiyananda smiled and said, what is the way? To sit quietly in the mast of the ship, totally surrender to God's will. Then Turiyananda quipped, when did you fly at all? So sitting quietly in the mast of the ship before flying and sitting quietly after flying are two completely different and opposed psychological states of a sadhaka. Sitting quietly in the mast of the ship before flying is called tamas. You are not interested, you feel sleepy, and you claim, oh, I have surrendered to God. Many of our sadhakas like us, we quickly surrender to God from the very beginning. Because the easiest to say, I surrender to God, let him do what he likes, except my little candies should be in place. All my desires should be fulfilled, but I have surrendered to God all the same. Surrender is the highest state of spiritual consciousness, which is Atmajnana. That means your ego completely collapses. So when the ego tires itself out and realizes its own limitation, that this little ego, conditioned as it were by the body and the mind and the space and time and causation, just cannot realize that infinite which is vast, which is timeless and beyond space and causation. Only this realization will make this little ego helplessly collapse and die. When the ego dies, then spiritual realization dawns on you. So Ramakrishna also said in Bengali, Ami molle ghuchibe jhanjal. When I die, there will be realization. Somebody said, when you die, what? When the I dies, not when I die, when the I, the little ego, which thinks I can achieve something in spiritual life, when that dies, then you get the highest. You see only when the I dies. The person who is seeing is not there anymore. Then such a person who sees without the I is called a seer. A person who seeks is called a seeker. A seer is a person who is a sage, who is a saint. But how does he see without the ego? Then God comes and tells him, you don't have to see, I will give you some divine eye so that you can see. Divyam dadami te chakshuhu pashyame yogamaishwaram. So pashyame yogamaishwaram, the 9th chapter, and Divyam dadami chakshuhu in the 11th chapter, all of them mean God gives you a special gift of perception through which you can see. If I think I can see by myself, you should realize you can't. Should we not try? We should try. Then what is the meaning of seeking? What is the meaning of sadhana? The meaning of sadhana is to realize sadhana cannot give you God. Through sadhana you can't achieve anything. If I tell you this, if the scriptures tell you this, if the acharya tells you this, you will not be satisfied. The child comes and runs around. Then the mom says, no, see, don't run around, you are not going to get it. No, I want to see, I will try. Go on trying. Till you go on trying here and there and come back, oh, you are right, I told you so. But if you are told sufficiently early, in the state of immaturity, when you still think that I can achieve something, then you will not be able to take it. The eye which says I can achieve something through sadhana will be an eye which will always be the eye of a seeker. It's a good thing, you go on seeking, but remember that it is given to you and not seen and sought and got by you. You struggle. At the end of the struggle, it is just given to you as a gift. This is called grace. So this dvandva, this opposite to the self-effort in divine grace, has been debated over millennia in all spiritual scriptures. Which is more important? Swami Atmapriyanandaji makes a beautiful statement in that famous book, Meditation, Spiritual Life. Self-effort, divine grace comes to us in the form of self-effort. That we should make an effort, that we should meditate, we should think of God, we should sit down and we should do sadhana. This idea is given to you by God's grace. And even one of the greatest of Advaita Granthas, Advaitic text, the Avaduta Gita, begins by saying, Ishvara Anugraha Deva Pumsam Advaita Vasana. That a person has inclination towards Advaita, even that is because of God's grace. That all of you are here to listen to spiritual talk is because God has given you special grace by which you can come and see and listen. So every one of the movements in sadhana, in seeking, is because we are empowered by God, that you are able to sit quietly for some time is because of sadhana. And if you withdrew this empowerment, you will be nowhere. Then such moments, don't blame God, don't blame anybody. Don't blame the mosquitoes, which we have plenty at Belur Math. I could have done so much of sadhana but for these mosquitoes. Nothing need be blamed. If it doesn't happen, go back to God and say, oh God, I could not do it because you didn't give me grace. There is a remarkable statement by the author of Practice of the Presence of God, Brother Lawrence. He says, on days in which I could meditate well, I could think of God, I was full of godliness and devotion, I go back to God and said, oh God, I thank you so much. Because of your grace, my mind was filled with good thoughts, godly thoughts. I have no credit for it. On days on which I could not, I quietly again go back to God. This is my natural state of mind. I cannot think of God unless you give me grace. So be it today. And again with full satisfaction I come back. So the idea that I have achieved something through sadhana to be able to deserve this idea should first be completely rooted out of our mind before sadhana. This is so important because such a subtle thing, the ego of a sadhaka, ego of a seeker is the most dangerous ego. All the other gross egos can be eliminated. The most dangerous ego is the ego of a holy man. The ego of a sadhaka, the ego of a sannyasi. I am not saying this. Holy Mother Sharda said, she showed the white cloth which she was wearing. Said, Baba, itai bhalo, gerua porle ahankar hoy. This is better, this white cloth is better. The moment you wear the gerua, you feel that you are somebody, you are a sannyasin. It is good to have an ego, provided the ego is rooted in God. Be egoistic because you are a child of God. Because your ego is not your ego, the ego is God's ego. Once again, the Kathamrita, the punning of the word in Bengali, I'll translate it into English. Somebody said, Radha was a special favorite of Sri Krishna, as you know, Radhika. Then somebody, Radha has become egoistic because Krishna favors her the most. Then Radha said, Ahankar hoyeche. Ahankar means egoism in Sanskrit. Then he said, Ahamkar. This aham, kar means, in Bengali, kar means who's it? Whose aham is this? The aham which Radhika is feeling is the aham of Sri Krishna. So you are proud, you are egoistic because you are a child of God. Because you are the Atman. Be rooted in your higher self, which is the Atman, which is also another name of God or Ishvara, and be proud that you are a child of God. And you get strength because you are strong in His strength. Not because you are strong by yourself based on the ego and the mind and the body. Remember the beautiful story which Ramakrishna gives in the Kathamrita, in the Gospel. Two sadhakas were meditating for a very long time. They were very tired. Then Narada is going to meet Vishnu. All of you know Narada, I suppose, the famous character who goes around everywhere. And he is the heavenly paparazzi. He comes and goes and then gives information everywhere. Then these two people said, oh Narada, you're going to meet Vishnu. Can you find out how many more lives we have to struggle like this? We are tired. Then he said, I'll find out. Then he came back after some time. Did you ask him, what did the Lord say? The first person said, Lord said, yeah, he has progressed quite far. Just 4 more lives he has to wait. 4 more lives? I have struggled so much, but God will still make me wait for 4 lives. He became terribly depressed and started crying. The other fellow said, what about me? Any good news for me? Yeah, you have some good news. Look at this tamarind tree. I don't know whether many of you have seen the tamarind tree in India. Tamarind is very, very small leaves. The tree, the total number of leaves in the tree should be several million. Look at this tree. You will have lives, as many lives as the leaves in this tamarind tree. He started jumping with joy. Oh, God is so gracious. At the end of all this, He is going to give me liberation. What grace, what grace. That moment he was liberated. This is the story. What is the interpretation? Swami Vivekananda gives an interpretation in the Raja Yoga, the last chapter. He says this kind of patience is required so that you can attain God. That's one way of looking at it. I asked Swami Atmapriyanandaji of revered memory, what could be the interpretation of this story? He made us just a simple statement. The first person thought that he deserved liberation. That's it. The moment the sadhaka, the seeker thinks, I deserve it because I have done so much of sadhana, that fellow will still deny me 4 more lives. That the ego of a sadhaka simply kills the sadhana. And the next man knew he never deserved it anyway. But in spite of that, undeservingly, Sri Ramakrishna, the God, is going to give me this liberation out of His infinite grace, and that feeling liberated him totally. So you go on doing sadhana. This is a very important secret in sadhana, which the great men have repeatedly said. In fact, I sometimes very funnily say, a person who does less sadhana perhaps can reach God faster. Because it isn't the ego of a sadhaka. Example, Girish Chandra Ghosh. Girish Chandra Ghosh was a Bohemian, as you know, and then he knew he doesn't deserve any of these spiritual values. But the moment he surrendered himself to Ramakrishna and completely gave up his ego, Ramakrishna was quick enough to liberate him. The ego of a sadhaka is a terrible obstacle to sadhana. So you keep doing sadhana, keep seeking, remembering that the seeing that happens at the end of seeking is not the result of your seeking, causally related to your seeking, but it's a gift of God given, unconditioned, non-causally. Seeking exhausts you totally. Seeking makes you become aware that any amount of seeking through the body and the mind and the senses is not going to give you something which is absolute. Any effort in the relative plane will not be able to give you the absolute truth. If you, at the back of your mind, you know, but then why do you do sadhana? Because you have nothing else to do. If you love God and He is the only treasure of your life, the only object of your existence, the only person you live and die for, then you can't do anything else except think of Him. You think of Him, you meditate upon Him, you chant His name and do all the sadhana, not because the sadhana is going to lead you to God and God is going to come and dance before you tomorrow, but because I go on loving Him, I go on giving Him, if His grace He will give. One more incident in Holy Mother's life. So these stories are so small and so busy and so pregnant with meaning, unless you penetrate into the depths of it and use it for your sadhana, this will simply remain in books. One disciple of Holy Mother, young Swami, went to Rishikesh to meditate and do tapasya. He writes to the mother, Mother, I have been doing so much, I have been meditating, intensest austerity I am doing. Why God is not giving me anything? It is written in the book in Bengali, Ma uttejita hoiya bolilen. Mother became excited. Mother never got excited usually. In this occasion, she was very excited. She was positively angry. Mother got excited, right to him. Does he mean to say God is like a potato or a vegetable that he can purchase with a price? I have done so much of japa. I have paid so many dollars, and in lieu of that, God has to come and give me His vision. You can't purchase God through sadhana. Because He is priceless, He is invaluable, He is absolute, He is infinite. Any amount of finite gift will not be enough to get God. So you keep doing what you're doing. One more story. This was told by Swami Vivekananda in one of the lectures. He must have taken it from some Purana or somewhere. It's a very telling story which reconciles the self-effort and the divine grace. There are 2 birds which are moving around near the ocean, and the female bird laid some eggs in the beach, and every day she was very careful trying to hatch it. Then suddenly the wave of the ocean came and washed them away. The mother bird was so upset, went on crying, "My children gone." The male bird said, "Why are you crying? Let us be up and doing. Through our effort we will recover those eggs." What should we do? Look at this ocean. Somewhere the eggs are there. If we empty the ocean, we should be able to recover the eggs. Very simple. Then they said, "Come on, let's start from today." Slowly they walked, and one drop in their beak, one drop each, came back and emptied it on the sand. Again they walked, whole day, whole night. They went on doing it for months and years, believing that the ocean can be emptied and the eggs can be recovered. There's the longing. I have to somehow attain this. The Samudra Raja, in the Puranas, every thing in the nature has a deity. The king, the god of the seas, he became so moved by the effort, by the longing, by the passionate effort of these birds. So he brought those eggs and gave them, "You take this." Look at this story. Were the eggs attained through the effort of these birds? Yes and no. They did not get it through the efforts as a causally related gift. The emptying of the ocean, the effort, the sadhana they did not fetch them this, but it brought down divine grace, because when they realized that any amount of sadhana that they do to empty the ocean can't really make it, then your ego collapses and you become absolutely, totally helpless. Then the divine grace descends upon you. So this helplessness is an important quality in a sadhaka. The great Ramanuja, the Bhakti Acharya says, Karpanya is the word used, helplessness. And faith, rakshishyati iti vishwasaha, that he shall protect me. And I become totally helpless. This happened to Arjuna, as you know. Arjuna was arguing with Sri Krishna, the whole of first chapter. At one point he says, "Arjuna, oh Lord, you do not know what kind of terrible sin we are trying to do. Are you encouraging me to do it? Aho bata mahat papam kartum vyavasita vayam yad rajya sukha lobhena." Out of greed of wealth and greed of the kingdom, we are going to commit deadly sin, and you are the person who is encouraging me to do it. He is challenging the Lord himself. You do not know what you are doing. The Lord is smiling, prahasanniva bharata, characteristic of Sri Krishna and Sri Ramakrishna, always smiling mischievously. Then at the end of the argument, finally he says, "I can't take it anymore. I don't know what is right for me. Karpanya dosho avahata svabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammodha chetaha yachreyasyan nishchitam bruhitan me sishyasteham shadhi mam tvam prapannam." Unless the disciple collapses, his ego completely smashed, and he doesn't know what to do, in that state of utter helplessness, when his individual ego is eliminated, burnt away, he surrenders himself completely, unconditionally to the Lord and declares himself to be a disciple. Sishyaste aham. Before that he was not declaring. Prapannam, I am completely surrendering to you. Who am I? Karpanya dosho avahadasvabhavaha. I have been completely overwhelmed, overcome by the feeling of utter, total helplessness. I have realized any amount of effort which I do individually based on my ego, my strength, my body and my mind will not be able to give me the light of illumination and wisdom. And therefore, O Lord, who is the Jagat Guru, who is the Antaryami, who is the inner dweller, who is the person who really elevates and releases you? Prichhami tvam dharma sammodha chetaha. So you please instruct me, Shadhi. You instruct me, you give me instructions, you give me the Upadesha, because I am your disciple, Sishyasteham. What kind of Sishya? Prapannam Sishyam. I am completely surrendered to you. So seeking ends and seeing is dawning upon you. So this is called Vedanta. Anta is the end. Veda is knowing, seeking. Any kind of knowing you want to seek through knowledge. I have so much knowledge of the scriptures, I have so much knowledge of the paths, I have read so many different kinds of religions, I have so much of knowledge. Through that knowledge I know the methods of seeking. When knowledge comes to an end, Veda is Anta, then Vedanta gives you the realization of the spirit which is supreme. That has to end. The last concluding remark, the first chapter of the Ramakrishna Kathamrita, the Gospel of Ramakrishna. Look at the writer of the Gospel, M. Master Mahashaya, Mahendranath Gupta, going and challenging Sri Ramakrishna. What kind of person is your wife? He says, she is good, but rather ignorant, and you are a man of knowledge. Artumi Gyani. That rebuke, Master Mahashaya meet what kind of elevated person he must have been. He says, till that time, M thought by reading so many books you can acquire knowledge. Then he realized that knowledge actually means realization of the wisdom of God and not reading many books. You acquire knowledge through so many means and think through the knowledge you seek, at the end of it you attain God. It is given to you by His grace. And grace is unconditional. Grace is not causally related to the effort. This is great mystery in spiritual life. The Upanishads say, Eme vesha vrunute tena labhyas tasyesha atma vivrinate tunum swam. Even the great Advaita Shankaracharya says, Eme vesha vrunute, whomsoever it feels like giving grace to, it gives. Whomsoever it graces. Tasyesha atma vivrinate, he opens up and reveals itself to him. Shankara uses in the Bhashya the word prarthana, through the prarthana to intense longing, and through what Sri Ramakrishna called the vyakulata, passionate longing, you go to God and say, I can't do it anymore by my own effort. So you please come and reveal yourself to me. If you don't reveal, I can't do anything to me. So the prayer in the Upanishad, Pushanne karishe yamasurya prajapatya vyuharashmin samohdejo yatte rupam kalyanatamam tatte pashyami yosa vaso purusha sohamasmi. Ishopanishad. O Pushan, O great sun, symbolizing the divine, you reveal yourself to me so that I can see you. So unless God reveals himself to you, unless the Atman reveals, Yamevesha vrunate tena labhya, tasyesha atma vivrunate, the sadhaka can never see. Seeking, of course, is true in space-time, necessary, but remember, seeking and seeing are not causally related. At the end of seeking, you see, but it is not a result of seeking, but the end of seeking, when seeking makes you realize and feel in the depths of your being, seeking is meaningless. The meaninglessness of all seeking comes to you and impinges on your the inner mind and the psyche, and with such a force that the ego just collapses. In this collapse is born the wisdom of God and the vision of God. Thank you.